You should create something. When I set out to write this essay, I wanted to hone in on why we, as humans, create, what draws us to create, and what is the purpose of creating. Something I was frequently drawn back to was the fact that I was raised in a semi religious, semi secular household. And I often reckon with that fact. I'm not religious by any stretch now, but it was a bit of a journey to get there. My childhood was a mishmash of contradicting messages about what the world was and why it existed. Hymns and child friendly Bible stories on Sundays, but seldom a mention of God on Monday through Saturday. My parents shielded me from a lot more of the hateful rhetoric that went around at the church as a kid. I even thought they were pretty rad for letting us watch Family Guy, as long as we swore not to repeat any of the inappropriate jokes. That's not an uncommon story for my area. I think many people grew up with a similar connection, or rather lack of connection, to religion in my immediate circles growing up. There was something that set me apart from my peers despite my very casual connection to the church, though. My dad was the man at the pulpit every week. He was the minister. And my relationship with my dad is complicated. I think he's a smart man, all things considered. He went to school for theology over several years, so he genuinely knows the Bible as a text and a lot of its historical context. He preaches at an affirming ministry that recognizes queer and trans people, although I have my disagreements with him from time to time on politics. I went through phases when I was younger where I tried to connect with my dad by becoming more involved in church and learning about the Bible, trying to repair aspects of our relationship by learning about one of his interests, and desperately trying to gain some common ground. Naturally, I cracked it open to page 1. Genesis. And I didn't make it much further than that. I think that my reading, although short, opened up an interesting conversation in my head. I always wanted to know why humans create and why I create. And specific phrases kept coming up. Passages I had read from Genesis. Although I didn't connect much with what I had read, especially in a spiritual sense, there was something about the phrases that had stuck out. So God created mankind in his own image. God saw all that he had made, and it was very good. I've seen my dad do his sermon on Genesis more than once in his over 30 years of ministry. Every day as he's creating, it is good. And on the final day of creation, he uses it for rest and to observe his creation. And that day is very good. Before we had credible scientific theories to suggest how he came into being, it was up to interpretation. And how we as a society choose to interpret the nature of our world, mankind, and the inception of it all is fascinating. In Genesis, humans are godlike. Yet, the Cree telling of the Turtle Island creation story doesn't even mention humans. It only focuses on how the animals helped the Creator form the land we live on. These tales seem to hold a reverence for creation, that it's a special act, and one that takes mastery. After all, the power to create humanity and the earth is one only reserved for a deity or powerful being. And what they choose to create is also important. It tells us about their values as a society. The Cree value the land they live on, whereas humans are the final creation in the Bible. And creation is also laborious, a process that takes, often in long periods of time and effort, but the result is rewarding of the labor required. In the Bible, it's one worthy of its own day of rest. And thanks for the advice, by the way, but don't thank your local deity for the weekend. Thank a labor union. I think these principles reflect some of my own thoughts on creation, and again, while I don't ascribe to any religious beliefs, I find these creation stories indicative of the societies they were born from, the prevailing ideologies of the religious leaders to be passed down for generations. So perhaps I'm not alone in having these beliefs. I guess that leads me to wonder, why is there so much reverence for creation in these myths? I believe humans are naturally drawn to create, and that these creation myths are historical examples of explaining that innate desire. They themselves are a creation about creating. If taken from a religious context, all human desire to create would come from and be inspired by that initial intentional act of creation. I think there are many reasons humans are drawn to create. I think it's actually quite important to this conversation that art is notoriously hard to make a living from. Some of the most famous art of today was made by artists who couldn't afford to eat at the time they made it. We live in a society that thrives off making a quick buck. Everyone is struggling and only a few get by. There's only so much time in a day and so many jobs you can work. Devoting time to creating something is an act of defiance. It's not something you're doing to survive, it's something you're doing to enrich yourself in a system that wants you to live and die at the till. Naturally, some try to turn their creations, their art, into an income source, but often this is difficult to achieve, and often achieving it produces deadlines, pressure, and diminishes the original enjoyment it once brought. We create to understand the world, to understand other people, ourselves, to process experiences, share them, to connect over them, to feel good in accomplishing something. Putting pen to paper and seeing the ink complete your thought before you do. I want to share my essays and poetry so others feel seen, where they can feel my anguish about the world, but also feel a sense of hope and resilience. I write poetry about my partner because she makes me feel ways I haven't before. I want to process that, but I'm also grateful for her and the love she shares with me. I draw characters from my favorite shows and write about them, often imagining them in fictional relationships with each other because it brings me joy. For myself, turning these into an income stream would mean moderating what I produce, making sure that my thoughts are algorithm friendly. I wouldn't be able to freely choose topics based on what interests me, and I wouldn't be able to say fucking shit as easily. I've shared my thoughts on AI before, but I worry about how it displaces the desire to create. Creating a superficial dopamine hit as though you made something, but it's hollow. Nothing was expended, and nothing new was gained. But it's incredibly algorithm friendly. I believe creation is an act of resistance in our current system, against AI, but also against the notion that we need to be constantly productive. Productive for the capital-owning class. I believe that making art, especially in the absence of a financial incentive, is an incredibly powerful act. So, my advice? Make art, and make bad art. Make art to share, but also make art that is for your eyes alone. Make art that disturbs the peace, and make art that comforts those who see the world for what it truly is. But most importantly, make something. Hi, thank you for the over 500 views and the like over 20 subscribers. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.